on Thursday, May 15th, 2021. This is our monthly meeting, monthly municipal library board process. First item on the agenda is pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, it seems we are missing Bill and Susie, but we have a forum. Next, we have comments from the public. None. Things we have comments to make, sign up. Thank you. Consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda, or do we take all those items by consent? There's one additional item that's not necessarily there, having to do with the movement of interest. And a separate resolution, pretty good. Maybe we take the consent agenda by consensus.
Motion to approve.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries. Consent agenda has been adopted. I didn't. It's actually approval of the agenda. I do want to add one item on the agenda. I can go back slightly. I'm going to add really at this stage, if everyone's okay with that, adding an update from Tim Carnes and Mr. Crossing, our construction attorney, who will be at an update about that. Maybe adopt that change in the agenda.
Yeah, motion to approve. Second.
Motion seconded to change the agenda in that way. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries, which means that we are now 10 minutes from this.
Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to come in and talk to you about what's going on with regards to resolution of dispute with LLC Incorporated. You have in front of you what's been marked as the mutual release and settlement agreement of these claims. And let me give you a little bit of background so that you can kind of understand. As you're aware, back at the end of last year, we came to the board with a resolution for resolving the dispute with R.L. Turner for the additional claims and costs that they had incurred over the extended period of time that the Fishers Library would be constructed. We were able to satisfactorily resolve that claim. Of course, as part of that, there were some issues raised with regard to some of the things that LWC did with regards to the project. So over the past 7 months, we've been working with them to see if we could potentially resolve those issues as well, rising from that, and then kind of wrap up and close out the contract balance that remains on the contract with LWC for the Fishers portion of the project. And remember, there were 2 contracts, one for Evansville, one for Fishers. The agreement that you have in front of you is quote unquote the lawyer approved language of this. We are still awaiting official sign off from LWC on it. The terms and everything that have been proposed for what would be presented. What you'll see in here is that there is a current contract balance for the contract with LWC for Fishers for $32,270.55, as well as additional claims that are being made for LWC, the amount $18,341 for professional services it provided in administrative construction phase issues for the Fishers Library, including the fire system. There is also LWC has alleged unbilled work that it did over the course of this project, which it has kept its time for, but it is not charged yet. And after this proposal, what has been put in front of the board in this agreement would be that in exchange for a release of LWC from the Fishers contract, in other words, that there would be no further requirements that would be required for them to perform work under that agreement. They would agree to forgive the amount of balance in that $18,000 in additional fees, which totals to the sum $50,558.55 as a credit back to the library. And then they would release their claims for any additional compensation for that unbilled time. Again, that agreement is based on the library releasing from the project. Now, importantly, the way that that release goes. It does not release LWC from any unknown actions or claims related to defects arising from or related to LWC's work or project. So that has been carved out. If something which will arise in the future, which we're not aware of anything at this point in time, then that would have to be something revisited under the terms of the contract to determine whether or not there was a legal remedy against them. But other than that, there would be no additional work that's to be performed for them. We've spoken with Melissa, we've got everything related to the Fishers project online to be completed and taken care of. And so with that, what we would ask the board tonight is for your approval and authority, if you're in agreement with it, for a vote to allow Melissa to execute this document on behalf of the trustees, but upon final agreement and approval from LWC. If for some reason the language of this were to change, we would of course come back to you and bring it back for another vote at that point in time, but I don't anticipate that occurring at this point. So, any questions for me?
If I may, I might change that motion just slightly, as long as the credit equals the amount of their claim, and they also release the unbilled time. And Tim lets me review the language. If we're having an issue between Tim and the other attorney agreeing on wording of different parts of this, I don't know that he wanted to come back to you for another month. But I'll leave that to you. So as long as those components are in it, and Melissa and I are comfortable with it, you don't have a different authority to execute, because I assume that's what you're talking about.
Correct.
So you read in concept on the term.
That is nice.
We're just kind of struggling with.
And there's only just one refinement language just to make sure that the contracts and the release are once it all to the 50 to there. I think we've worked through that. If you now we're just looking at it.
As for the point of discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we authorize our director to execute the mutual lease and settlement agreement as written, or if there would be follow-up alterations made, that we authorize our director to execute it subject to her approval and approval of the council.
Second.
All right, been a motion in seconds. It's been a motion in seconds and discussion on motion.
So it's just dependent, assume where there's nothing fantastic. Aware of the purpose of this contract to bring up. We're good at it.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, says authority to execute as written or review. Next one, Matt Mason.
Thank you. Good to see you all again. I'm here to provide an update on some of the other projects that we have going on, specifically the small projects between the two branches that we have KRM on board with, as far as architect, engineering firm, as well as the new branches, which is some updates on those as well. So starting with the small projects, right now KRM has been working through providing costs for the list that has been put together. From when we started to where we're at now, the list is about 45 items, and we had met and kind of created a priority to those items or scope. They range anywhere from just added signage, wayfinding signage, and kind of building permit signage that are required for your building inspecting official, all the way to adjusting some remodels to some walls and creating a new possible circulation desk, stuff like that. So we were hoping to get through that, get pricing. Karen is basically, they had to get the existing plans from both branches, the different scope books and O&M manuals that made up what is, the building right now, so that they could properly identify what sort of modifications would be required, and then identify the materials to make matches and stuff like that, so that they could properly price them. They've gotten through that, and we wanted to sit down with the building and grounds committee to go through those. Unfortunately, with the timing it took for them to put that together, and they're getting everybody scheduled to align. Right now, we have that meeting scheduled for the 28th, I believe, when we be getting together to go through that. So again, we went through that list and find a priority level, basically a 1 to a 6, 1 being low, 6 being it has to happen, pretty much like I had mentioned for kind of like the building officials come through for inspections. And of the 45, 19 were kind of considered high priority. 7 of those 19 are, again, pretty much just signage. So again, we'll plan on meeting on the 28th with building and ground, going through actual dollar values for focusing primarily on the high priority items. And making sure everybody's kind of in agreement with those before we release parents and start actually doing some actual conceptual design plans for those. And I should preface that they actually have started a little bit when we were going through the priority. They did bring some sketches and ideas for kind of like the circulation test on what were likes and dislikes, and so if they could properly kind of again put some pricing and numbers to those. Switching gears to the new branch, the RFP did hit the street on April 30th to again seek conceptual design, architect, and engineering services for, again, pretty much the conceptual design that went out to about 6 different invited firms. Again, pretty much the same ones that were invited for small projects. And the proposals are due back next Friday on the 23rd. At that point, we'll look to set up interviews the week of June 2nd and be prepared to pretty much bring a recommendation from us for next month for the June meeting as well to, again, enter into some services to start the conceptual phase of that. Once we get them on board, it'll probably be months for them to go through the conceptual design. We're pretty much targeting to have something completed by October in order to get in front of county council, like financial committee, to start bringing them into the conversation on future plans. In the meantime, this week, Melissa and I, we met with the city engineering board, Jim Hellman, and discussed kind of the plans over in that area, future plan, the Oleo Road widening, and then the Henke development across the way, just to kind of start understanding utilities and access to the site. That way we can take that information again to the architect and start thinking through that process. So that is where we're at basically with both small projects and the new branch. Any questions?
The feasibility study that we had, was that sort of a version of that will be available, so the architects fitting on this want to look at it?
Well, that was a part of the RFP that they we requested that. Pretty much everybody that has reached out, we've been able to send them a copy of the feasibility study, so they do have that for preparing these.
To that same point, I take it all the focus group background that also is included in that sort of materials.
Yeah, so all of that, everything that was discovered in the survey was the final pretty much summary report that they have, so they kind of understand somewhat of a focus on what they were looking or expecting for this branch.
Is this what they'll get?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the reason I asked, I actually had a company just reach out to me, I think, once they did and asked what they should do. So study, that's the first thing I look at.
So, yeah,
Once all of these studies are done, that's when we would go for a vote, right? Like, has this been voted on for, before I got here, or something that we are getting a third branch, or is this just something we're researching, we will be?
some research and process.
Yeah, it's like figuring out what could go there, and something going there, what would be where, what would be side, you know. So yeah, no, there's been no vote to say we are moving forward.
We would have to vote on like issuing the bond, and so when it comes to, when we have all the costs estimated, the vote comes in when we issue the bond for the funding.
Any other discussion, questions from that? Great. Thank you. Meeting room policy.
Okay, so this is an update that, a lot of the updates are adding information about the spaces that were added during construction, so, and then also removing the computer labs, that were previously described, which we know no longer exist. And there is actually one change that we made, on page 6 of that, it refers to, the computer training lab, and that needs to come out of there as well. So, so there's those changes, updating the language describing what rooms are available. And then in addition, adding information about our study rooms, because we don't currently have any policy regarding the study rooms, we would like to get some language surrounding them. Updating the hours to reflect what our current operating hours are. And then adding updated information about the contact and reservation information. And then some tweaks to the number of times that the rooms can be reserved by non-profit groups. We did increase that because we found that we had a lot of Girl Scout, Boy Scout groups, homeschool groups that were meeting the cap, and we felt like they have a compelling reason to be in the space, and it's not that they're, we're still able to make the space available to other people, but we found that we're just making exceptions a lot. So we'd like to just codify that these nonprofits can have more, have access to the rooms more time. And then also requesting the ability for staff to confirm we have to
Any discussion on that, otherwise, the meeting room policy is drafted, plus the change in top, page 6, we make that. Classroom.
So moved.
Second, any discussion on whether to approve the meeting policy? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Terrific. The next item is a nosebleed. They're getting up before you to do this, financial days.
Well, we held our fourth board meeting, earlier this week on Tuesday evening. Our board was there. We had filing for the IRS in effective in April. You're now getting the different movement pattern. Not really sure how long it will take for us to respond to them. Someone will change the process and it will necessarily assign an agent. You can get information back in your application, so we are just waiting, it could be. How long is it gonna take? So we have discussed a couple of different options as a board about how we can go ahead and move forward with receiving funds. We look at those, we're gonna think about it and do several different process oriented types of things, and probably we'll be doing that at our meeting in June. whether we're interested in doing, and we can even have a sponsoring organization where we can receive gifts. Now we have to be extremely transparent about the fact that our status is pending, and we cannot guarantee that the gifts will be, if our status, once you're approved, it's retroactive, but we can't guarantee that that will happen before the end of the year. So we're just kind of touching base and thinking about how we might want to proceed, knowing those things. So we think there are ways that we can at least move ahead in some areas, and then we'll be considering those. We, in the next month, are going to be doing several projects and policies. One of those will include getting a draft of memorandum of understanding. We've got several examples from other libraries, so people will be looking at them and certainly talking with the and we will also about for that. Let's see, those are some of the major things. The one exciting thing that's coming up is the Night in the Stack Summer Adult Kickoff event. And this is what we do. We've got all invited to this event. It's a partnership with the Library Foundation. And it's just going to be a fun evening in the local library. So trivia, there is an adult bounce house. You have exactly like what you want. So come and find out. It is a ticket event, costs $20. So you need a purchase ticket in advance. Again, that is 7 to 10 p.m. on May 30th, and you will see the drink, a complimentary drink, your choice, alcoholic, at the event with which is your ticket, so with your ticket. So please join us for that kickoff event. We love fun. I have some extra flyers we do with fun. Do you all have any questions for me?
Well, we need to RSVP
How
for the event. I mean, how will we get a ticket?
there are bills now. You can purchase your tickets now, and then you can do it up to 3 p.m. on the day of the event. So you can get them even pretty last minute, if not after the event. Any other questions? All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing everyone on the 30th.
Okay, thank you. Director report.
So, good things happened in April. I was appointed to the Fisheries Aging and Wellness Task Force that the city of Fisheries is hosting, and we had meetings, and we have another one next week. But it's been really interesting to be a part of and learning about how the city envisions servicing a growing part of our population, and just how the library can fit in. And I think there's a lot of things, services that we can explore and adding for so that we can facilitate and support the city in that as well. So we've also, Molly and John and I have been working with organizational architecture to look at the staffing structure. So looking at how can we most effectively and efficiently use our staff, and if we do explore, if we do add a third branch, we don't suddenly get a lot more money, so we would have to figure out how to staff it on the current budget. So just figuring out how can we most effectively and efficiently use our staff, so that if we add a third branch, that we have the ability to staff that. And so we've been working with them on that, and we're getting ready to do a survey with the staff, and then they're going to do some interviews with the staff to help us come up with a plan of what we can do most effectively and efficiently, using our staff hours. Molly's been working with tailored systems to get data in the lower level lobby, good top, and then they're also have been working a lot on getting the voice over IP added, and I'll have more updates on that because it's being installed next week. But I will just say, tailored systems is they're a local business and they are amazing. And if you ever need any help with technology or voice over IP, they have just been wonderful. And then we've also been working with Blake Audiovisual to get the meeting room technology, and they've been analyzing and seeing what the problems are. I mean, anybody who's been at our meetings has personally witnessed some of the failures of our technology. So they've been doing some analysis and coming up with it to make sure that our technology is consistent and reliable. We had Danielle, our adult programming coordinator, did the local author fair last month, and she had support from Allison and Aaron, the other coordinators, and they did a great job getting that event. They hosting that annual event, and next year they're looking at taking it to a new location at the county fairgrounds to make it easier to offer some of the sessions that workshops and things throughout the day so that they have space to do that. We also completed another year of tax season with AARP, and it's always a lot of questions for staff and providing forms, but we are really lucky to have so many people from the AARP come. And they're volunteers, and they actually help people with their taxes. And so just the note I got that they were able to help approximately 400 taxpayers complete taxes and answer questions and things like that. So that's significant. And the majority of them are seniors. So it's a great service that they provide, and we are lucky to be able to partner on that. We did have National Library Week in April, and Kelsey, who's in charge of our marketing department, she partnered with Hamilton Southeastern Schools. That high school has a really great media studies program, and she had several interns, and so they planned all the events for the week, and they just did a really great job. And I also want to say, Kelsey's not here. Kelsey did a really great job with these. Ever with interns. It's a lot of work to have help from interns sometimes, but she did a really great job with them, and what they came up with was pretty amazing. And then just some other things. There were a lot of activities over spring break. Not everyone leaves town for spring break, so a lot of families do come into the library. So I know our Ryan's department and Ignite get a little bit busier than normal when we have families in the library, but they did a good job at offering some special programs. And then right now, everybody's just gearing up for a summer reading program, and it's a busy time for everyone in the building, and it's a really busy time for each department. They do a lot of events in the summer as well, so we're just getting ready and making plans. And some mentioned earlier, we have the adult kickoff, and then we also have a kickoff event for families the following Saturday. Lots of fun things, and hopefully everyone can sign up for the summer reading program that is already live. So if you haven't registered already, there, and register with our website and find the registration to get that. Happy to answer questions. Sounds great.
Questions?
Thank you, Robert.
I mostly just report what other people do. So things are very exhausting. Like former children librarian, I can attest that it's exhausting. So, but it's a lot of fun.
One thing about the summer reading program that I think is exciting in regards to the foundation is that next summer we could probably get sponsored for the summer reading in terms of the prizes, and so that there isn't an expense associated with that. So anyway, just a connection made between the report and your report.
All right. Anything else on director's report? Other old new business we added to the plans, otherwise we're left to.
Wait, I have an old business item, I'm sorry. Because I whispered over to Beth after she asked the question about when do we vote on funding, I leaned over and I said, well, we did vote on the kind of the pre-funding when it comes to paying Veritas for the feasibility and the other work they're doing to lead up to the bond phase. So I don't remember exactly when that was. It probably shortly after you started. Even in your interim role, I think
I was here when we voted that, when we voted.
There is our responses for the reps
right.
as part of the project.
That I think that was part of long range planning. And so then we brought I know there were like 2 finalists and we brought a recommendation and we.
And then with KRM, had someone else.
Mhm. So, anyway, but I just wanted to,
Yeah, we're in the due diligence.
mhm. Not the big money.
Yes.
Yes.
Setting, if we want to spend
Mhm.
the big.
Right.
Because now, aren't we under a law right now? Is that right? And when does that roll?
Well, Mike Warner has a plan, so we would never issue a new bond without having a plan to, we wouldn't be issuing new debt, it would be to keep our tax rate the same. I know you know, I live at the township.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep the tax rate the same, they don't like it, but it comes.
Mhm.
No, that's, thank you for that.
Mhm.
Anything else? Was, what entertain moving to?
Motion to approve, or to adjourn.
Second.
We'll see you June 19th, 6:15, Jane will be your second, Jane. Town business.
That's a lot.